Hello, hello, good morning. Happy Sunday. This is the disheveled Sunday edition of Hobby Evolution. Good morning. What a weekend, a fun sports weekend. Going to talk a little bit about everything. We'll hit college basketball in the Final Four, baseball, my fantasy baseball draft. I know nobody wants to hear about it, but I'll spend a couple minutes. I won't bore you with the details, but I will bore you with a few minutes of my fantasy baseball draft that was last night. And it's Wrestlemania weekend, which is also going to bore some of you. So, what's up, Jenny? Good morning. And as Jenny mentions in the chat, it is the last Sunday without regular season baseball. Opening day this Thursday, my favorite time of year. My favorite month is like March, early April. Like all of March, first week of April, because we get the national championship, the Final Four, opening day, and then of course backing it out into early March, starting with the conference basketball tournaments. And it's still freaking cold. It's fake spring right now. It's 34 degrees, but it looks much nicer because we've got the time change, so we're getting more daylight. But it's still freaking cold. It snowed yesterday, big flakes, but it warmed up into the 40s, so it all melted, which is good. But I'm done. Like, it's baseball season. Bring on the warm weather. So, and I think this week it's going to be colder than it should be, like in the 40s, as opposed to like April. I think it should be in the 60s. We should be grilling and having a good time. Who gets the first home run of 2022? I don't know. Let me see who the first game is, because it all depends on the schedule. And I don't know how opening day, because opening day changes as far as like the games. Sometimes there's like an opening day of just like one or two games, and then sometimes it's like the entire slate, where I think last year every team played on opening day. So when's opening day? Thursday. So we've got Tuesday, Wednesday. Is Thursday opening day? When is opening day? I thought it was Thursday, but there's games every day this week. Okay, it is Thursday. Okay, so we've got the first game. Looks like the Red Sox Yankees are the very first game. So I'm going to say Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo hits the first home run of the season for the New York Yankees. And then my Cubs are the second game, Cubs and Brewers, which that sucks because that means I have to watch the Milwaukee broadcast, which actually I don't even think I get the channel that the Brewers are on, and I'm blocked out. I'm blacked out because I live in the black zone for the Brewers. So I'll have to like go somewhere if I want to watch the freaking Cubs home season opener, unless it's on ESPN or MLB Network. I'm screwed. That sucks. F you, MLB, and your stupid blackout rules. So yeah, so my first home run pick is going to be Anthony Rizzo of the Yankees. Dan says, hello, you starting at 8:30 now? No, it's Sunday. I start whenever I feel like it. I start whenever I feel like it on Saturdays and Sundays. Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time, Saturday, Sunday wild card, whenever I wake up and decide to get going. Red Sox Yankees first game. Yep, so I'm going Anthony Rizzo. Rich is with us. Good morning, Rich. So let's just go on with baseball. Opening day is Thursday. What I love about spring training, especially here as we wind down, we're getting started. My buddy Ethan Roberts is like on the brink of making the opening day Chicago Cubs roster as a relief pitcher, which is super cool. I've known him since he was drafted out of Tennessee Tech back in 2018. We've corresponded for the last 4 years now. Finally, because when I was out at spring training in 2020, I missed him when he was in South Bend because I didn't make that series. And then in 2020, so that was in, I think, 2019, 2020, we were supposed to meet up at spring training, but I went, he didn't report, and because I went like the first or second week, so I missed him. and then we had COVID, and then well, not we as in me, but the world had COVID, which was I decided not to go to spring training last year because it was a shell of itself. So then this year, we finally got to meet, and I was able to hang out with him a few times at the complex. And by the way, he made the pitching ninja, Rob Friedman. Uh, Check out pitching ninja, Ethan Roberts' wicked slider. I've watched it like on repeat like 50 times. It's one of the prettiest wicked sliders you've ever seen. So I'm excited that Ethan could potentially make the opening day Cubs roster. Um, and it's kind of it's for me as a super fan, Chicago Cubs super fan, it's surreal to me that a Cubs player like we were, along the walkway, and on my last day was Tuesday. Very surreal moment because the players walk out and they walk down the pathway, and it's surreal that a player would see me walk over, give me a fist bump. Like this is, like we're talking base. He's a collector. He didn't go to the show. His wife and family was in town, so he missed the Phoenix card show. But to have like, a big league player come over, give you a fist bump, just talk about random stuff, very surreal, because I'm the ultimate Cubs fanboy. What's up, John? Good morning to you. Jenny missed yesterday's show because I was moving boxes of cards to storage. It's a lot of work. Yes, it is. I actually did some moving around myself. I have back over in that cubby hole, I have a couple shelving units, and I'd put on one shelf, I'd put like all of the latest Goodwill, the second Goodwill pallet that I had bought. So I was just kind of pulling it off that shelf as I was digging through. So I'd gone through most of the boxes, and I had a bunch of empty shelf space. And then behind me, like on this shelf, I have a lot of just kind of dead card weight, basically. And this shelf here used to be, and well, it still is kind of, but I don't do trades. So that's where like all of my cards sorted by teams were, but I don't need those anymore. Not at least at the forefront where I just, because I just don't use that shelf except for my eBay stuff. So I need more space for more eBay inventory. So I was rearranging, moving some of the team boxes back into the cubby hole. A lot of I need more 4-row boxes. So I was doing some consolidation where I was pulling some 4-row boxes off the shelf, going through commons. We're just, I'm bulk selling. I've got a guy interested in a bulk lot. He wanted to come up for the previous one I had, but it had sold. So just getting more stuff ready for that sale, and getting those boxes ready so I can use 4-row boxes for either 25-cent boxes for my card shows, or I need to go through. I've got so much Bowman from the last couple years that I want to start putting player lots together now that baseball season is upon us. So I have so many that I need 4-row boxes to separate them by year. So that's another reason that I need the 4-row boxes. So I did a lot of that yesterday. I had my fantasy baseball draft last night. Of course, it was the Final Four, and it was Wrestlemania night number 1. So I just kind of want to touch on a little bit of those subjects. Let's go into the Final Four. We're house shopping, so I'm getting ahead of the game. I'm not moving all of this in one day. I will say, splurge on movers. That's like the best money ever spent, having movers move you. What's up, Herman? Good morning. I put all my Burley Relic cards into chronological order, but they're too thick for the Z-Folio. That's a bummer. And it was Women's Final Four in Minneapolis. I had no idea, and I'm in Minnesota. Watched a little of it myself. So the Final Four, we had Kansas. What's up, Cooter? We had Kansas and Villanova, and then we had North Carolina Duke, which was that was the big game. Coach K in his final season as a head coach at Duke. I am not like I hate Duke like most of the world, most of the country does. But I was actually kind of rooting for a deep run by Coach K. Now, I was a bandwagon North Carolina Tar Heels fan back in like junior high. I was a bandwagon college fan. Um, I was on the Marcus Camby UMass bandwagon in the mid '90s. I was a Florida State football fan. I was a Tar Heels basketball fan. I was when it came to college sports, I was on the bandwagon. So I actually had a lot of like North Carolina gear growing up, which came in handy because I was also an Iowa Hawkeyes fan, and that was more of my like real team. And that there was no bandwagon back in the 90s for Iowa sports. So meaning I was an Iowa fan, I hated Illinois. And so when Illinois and North Carolina played in the national championship game in 2005, I was working in radio doing a morning show, and my morning show co-host was a diehard Illini fan. So I was watching the national championship game at the local sports bar, Parkside Sports Bar, which it's now called like Sports Corner at once Spoco Sports Corner, but it was Parkside back then. And I have this idea that I've got all this North Carolina gear from like my childhood and just random stuff. I'm gonna deck out the studio, K100 studio, in North Carolina. So after the game, North Carolina wins, beats Illinois. I go to Walmart, pick up Tar Heel blue, baby blue balloons, streamers, and all that. And then I go to the K100 studios and just deck it out in Tar Heel blue. So that was so I've been a North Carolina fan. Um, I wouldn't call myself would have never called myself a true North Carolina fan because it was bandwagon and just out of spite. In 2005 against Illinois, while I was rooting for North Carolina, it was more because I was rooting against Illinois. So, speaking of North Carolina, what's up, Victor? Speaking of North Carolina, John, that 70s card show, if North Carolina wins the national championship game, John wins bragging rights in the Hobby Evolution Bragging Rights Bracket Challenge. John is currently in first place with 85 points. So if North Carolina, so it's going to be, so North Carolina beat Duke last night. Spoiler alert. I guess I said that too late if you have it recorded and going to watch it later. So North Carolina beat Duke last night. It was a good game. I watched the end of it. First game, I was tuning in and out. I watched the beginning. Kansas had jumped on Villanova early. Villanova kind of came back, made it a game. I had tuned out, started watching some of the early Wrestlemania stuff. And then I kind of kept Wrestlemania on until the second half of the Carolina Duke game. So Kansas ended up winning. So it's Kansas versus North Carolina, Blue Bloods. It was going to be a blue blood matchup no matter who won out of the Final Four. North Carolina versus Kansas in the national championship game. So if North Carolina wins, John wins the bracket challenge. He wins bragging rights. And Bob and Matthew B finish in second and third place. So the only order that can change in the bracket challenge is 1, 2, and 3. Spots 4 through 25 already spoken for. So if North Carolina wins, John wins the bragging rights bracket challenge. If Kansas wins, Bob will take over first place and win bragging rights. That's Bob's straight execution in the chat. Matthew B will take second place, and that'll bump John down to third. So if Kansas wins, it's Bob first place, Matthew second place, John third place. If North Carolina wins, it's John first place, Bob second place, Matthew third place. So the rest of it goes Jeremy in fourth. Herman, despite having Kentucky winning it all, Herman will take fifth place in the bracket challenge. Abraham in sixth. Brian in seventh. Now, if Villanova would have won the national championship, Brian would have won the bracket challenge, and Diego would have finished second. David, Dak T-Mac fan, finishes in a tie in eighth place with Diego, Dylan, and Ed. Ed also had Kentucky winning it all and finishes in eighth place. Dan, DR finishes in a tie for 12th. If Duke would have won last night and won the national championship, Dan would have won the bracket challenge. He was the only person that had Duke winning it all. So Dan's in a tie, finishes in a tie in 12th with Josh and Sam. I finish in 15th with Cole. Frank in 17th. Brian and Matthew S. Finish in 18th place. Scott finishes in 20th. John C. finishes in 21st. Tom finishes in 22nd. Jason, 23rd. Jenny finishes in 24th. And Nick rounds it out in 25th place. So that's the bragging rights bracket challenge. It was fun to watch, and it was so even look at Herman picked Kentucky and he finishes in 5th place. So those early games, if you're in first place or second, even third, after the first round, even the second round, there's so much movement even in to the final couple days of the tournament. That's what makes the bracket challenges so much fun, because there's so much movement. And even if your national champion loses in the first round, you can finish in the top 5. Let's see. So Herman says, wow, I picked Kentucky, so if that don't tell you anything. Jenny put Wisconsin Badgers because I always hear Bo talking about them. I had them in the Final Four. I thought they would make a run. I did have them in the Final Four. So that's the bragging rights bracket challenge. North Carolina, Kansas in the title game, which is tomorrow night. OG says my North Carolina and Kansas Jayhawk pick is on. Sorry, Coach. Well, you should have joined the bracket challenge, OG. Where were you? Because you're not in the in our bracket challenge, so you can't brag in here because you weren't part of our bragging rights bracket challenge. So let's see. So I watched some of that last night. WrestleMania was on last night. Night number 1. I'm not a big WWE fan per se. I'll watch it on occasion, but I just don't really care for the current WWE product. I'm more of an AEW fan. So but I do tune into the Royal Rumble. I tune into WrestleMania. So I had it on last night. I was kind of impressed and I don't like that it's 2 nights anymore. I like the one night Sunday WrestleMania. I guess call me a traditionalist. But there was some good stuff. I turned it off. Herman only watched for Stone Cold. I was just getting to that. I turned it off before the whole Stone Cold thing. So I may, after I stop this stream, I may go back and watch that, because I turned it off. What was on before? I think it was Charlotte and Ronda Rousey, and that's when I turned it off and I turned on the end of the Duke Carolina game. WrestleMania is off the hook. We gave our tickets away and watched family at the house. It was awesome. Charlotte Flair upset the family. So there was I'm trying to think of what was all on last night. Now I completely draw a blank. So Stone Cold Kevin Owens, I missed that. There was I'm completely Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. That was an interesting storyline with Happy Corbin. That match didn't really do much for me. Let's see. Oh, there was Logan Paul, who brought out the Pokemon card around his neck. Logan Paul and The Miz versus the Mysterios, Rey Mysterio Jr. and his son Dominic. Miz and Paul won, but then at the end, The Miz turned on Logan Paul. So that was an interesting swerve at the end. I once moved a quarter of a mile away. Most horrible experience ever. Screw Logan Paul. So tonight we've got the Unification Match. So I'll probably tune in. Again, I'm more of a casual observer. I'm not super into the WWE product, but it is WrestleMania. It's a spectacle, so I will watch it at some point. Logan Paul looked great, but honestly, that was disrespectful to the Mysterio family legacy. I do kind of agree with you on that, because I don't know. You can probably correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the first WrestleMania that Ray and Dominic teamed up? Um, so I find it interesting that they would be Dominic and Rey Mysterio would be in the like entertainment match. There's always like an entertainment match. Oh, what was the Johnny Knoxville? And it's like I get it. Lawrence Taylor back 20 years ago. 20? Maybe 25 years ago now. I think it was. Yeah, 25. More than 25. Jesus. Has it been that long? Lawrence Taylor, Bam Bam Bigelow. I think that was WrestleMania 10. Jesus. That was almost 30 years ago. My God. Oh, we're getting old. Yeah, father, son. Yeah. So I don't like, I agree with you. I don't like that they put Ray and Dominic in that match with the Miz and Logan Paul. Ken is a Logan Paul fanboy now. My Sunday nights are The Simpsons. Yes, they still make new episodes on Sunday nights. I haven't watched a new Simpsons episode in a long time. I do watch reruns. Reruns are on quite a bit. I'll tune into reruns, but I haven't watched a new episode in a long time. Tonight, who do y'all like, Roman or Brock? I've become a big Brock Lesnar fan. I used to hate Brock Lesnar. In fact, and Brock's been around for 20 years, and I'm doing the math. It's been 20 years for Brock Lesnar. So I have really become a fan of Brock Lesnar. And so Paul Heyman always did his talking, but now Brock's like doing some talking, and it's kind of fun. He's not bad. Like I just assumed he was a terrible talker. He's not a great talker on the mic, but he's entertaining. And I think you had 20 years of Brock Lesnar, the silent beast, and now he's cracking jokes. I like it. So I'm a Brock Lesnar fan, and I never did like Roman Reigns. Now I wasn't one of those that were booing him when he was like a fan favorite, all that, but I've never really been a big Roman Reigns fan. So I'm definitely taking Brock just because I like Brock Lesnar. Um, I I I hope this is and this probably won't happen, but I think they should unify the title altogether. Like I think it's silly to have two world titles. It's kind of like the WCW back in the early '90s when they still had the NWA title, but they also had the WCW World title. It's like just throw away the NWA title, not throw it away, but just retire it, unify it. So that's my thought. John says I could venture to guess that The Simpsons is the most lucrative and successful TV show ever, and I think Herman says longest running series in history. I think you're right. WWE bringing back the oldies to bring us back into the hobby of WWE. We're in a nostalgia age, so we're always going to be. You look at the movies, look at the TV shows. Everything is coming back. We love nostalgia, and just like in wrestling. I mean, look at 25 years ago in the 90s when WWE, WWF at the time was making fun of WCW for taking the old talent. Well, the old talent like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage back in the mid to late 90s were younger than most of the headliners on the current WWE roster. It's just amazing when you look at the ages. I had actually uh, taken a look at like ages of, okay, in 1997, this was the age of these wrestlers. This is the age of the current headlining wrestlers in WWE and AEW. I mean, look at Sting and Chris Jericho. Sting's in his 60s and he's still wrestling. Chris Jericho's in his 50s. So it's just funny how it all changes as we age. Yes, you said it best. Unify the title. Double or Nothing, May 29th at T-Mobile in Vegas. Will actually meet the press, albeit a news program is the longest running program ever. There you go. And the Tonight Show. I'm sure that the Tonight Show's been on. What else is? I think a lot of the news programs and those late night shows, those have been on for long periods of time. Also, maybe the sitcom. I guess we can drill it down to longest running sitcom in TV history. John says bring back lawn darts, lead paint, and red dye. Yep, today has been around since the 50s. Speaking of nostalgia, what's the next nostalgia break? Uh, I don't know. In fact, I had like all of my packs were down here as I was cleaning my shelves off. I was putting those in a shoebox. I was gonna do those like every day, and then I just kind of it didn't really the views didn't take off as much as I thought it would. But I've only done like what 10, so I do need to give it more time. But I will do another nostalgia break at some point. Um, I don't know oh, Howard the Duck is next in line. The Howard the Duck packs. I have two. I'm gonna keep one sealed for a rainy day, and I'll open one on nostalgia breaks. Most movies are now remakes. Absolutely. I never understood why Uncle would spike his lawn darts. Don't forget the clacker balls. So I had my fantasy baseball draft. And let's see. So our fantasy baseball draft is keeper league. Keep five. You have five keepers this year, and I suggested this because our league is super competitive, and I play with two guys that I went to college with, and then they were in grad school, and this was when I was working at the university. They were in grad school. We worked in the same office together, and then the commissioner, his like under under what's the undergraduate, his undergraduate college buddies. So there's and we're all like super fan baseball. We're into it, we're up on the prospects and all that. So I've been in the league now I think the league's been around for like 10 years. I've been in the league. I think this is my fifth year, sixth year. So I suggest like we're all like on top of prospects, and like at the end of the season, people that aren't in the playoffs will like stash prospects just in case they get like a spring training invite and potentially make the opening day roster. So, because you're after younger talent. So I said, let's do a prospect. Let's do like a semi dynasty league. Like let's not go deep into the weeds, but let's carry a roster of prospects so we have basically the rights to a minor league talent. So we did initiate that this year. So we ran the 25 round draft, 20 rounds, because we have five. The first 5 rounds are our keepers, and then the last 2 rounds we could only pick prospects. So my keepers, by the way, were Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, Jack Flaherty, and Trevor Rogers. So I kept 2 starting pitchers and 3 hitters. So then I also, by the way, and I shared like my roster and my draft on Twitter last night, did a video of my draft recap. So and it's so we're a head-to-head league. We also have holds as a category. So if you see like a pitcher like Genesis Cabrera on my roster, and you're like, why do you have Genesis Cabrera? He's not even the Cardinals closer. That's why we have holds as a category. And I also traded off. I was not a playoff team last year. I was not even in competition for a playoff spot. So I traded like a bunch of talent for draft picks. So we can trade, we can swap draft picks. So I had a glut of picks from like rounds 13 through 15. So I was able to, which really gives you a leg up in the draft because you can get ahead of better players. So I went with my first catcher drafted. I went with Dalton Varsho because not only does he have catcher eligibility, and I needed a catcher at the point, I also needed a center fielder, and he has eligibility at both positions. So I went with Dalton Varsho at catcher. Jose Abreu is my first baseman. Jake Cronenworth, who I wanted Jazz Chisholm, and there was a couple. Jonathan India actually at the point, and I was getting sniped. I got sniped like 4 times. Like the pick right in front of me, but I also did some sniping myself. So anyway, Jake Cronenworth is my second baseman, but he also has eligibility at first base and shortstop. I've got Josh Donaldson at third base. I waited on third base because third and first are kind of a dime a dozen, but I did want Abreu because he was available early on in the draft. Lindor's my keeper at shortstop. I picked up Randy Arozarena in left field. Adalis Garcia is also has center field eligibility and a power hitter in center field. So, and I think his projection, he's also projected to steal 16 bases. So to get 30 plus homer projection, 15 plus stolen bases is pretty good at center. Stanton, my right fielder. Soto, because I had because I have Stanton. Basically, Soto's my right fielder, Stanton's my utility, because they're both only right field eligible. Cabrian Hayes, my backup third baseman, in my utility spot, and then my bench: Akil Baddoo, Kybert Ruiz, Bobby Dalbec, Vidal Brujan, Miguel Sano, and then my very last pick, because I didn't think he would be available in the prospect draft, was homer pick, because I'm a Cubs fan, Brennan Davis. Brennan Davis will make the Cubs roster at some point early in the season. I think I said this last week. I think by Memorial Day, around Memorial Day, Brennan Davis will be in Chicago. So I didn't think, I had the 7th pick in the prospect draft. So I didn't think with Brennan Davis being, and he's one of the top 15 prospects in baseball, I didn't think he would be around at pick 7. So I used my 25th round pick. Now here's what happens in our league. Our 25-man roster, those guys are not, none of them, even like Brennan Davis, even though he hasn't had a major league at bat, he is not eligible to be put on your prospect roster. If you draft him in the major league portion, he cannot then be demoted to your prospect roster. But your prospect roster can go both ways. So my prospects, my first one drafted was Jordan Walker, Cardinals, and then Orelvis Martinez of the Blue Jays was my second. And then my pitchers, I went kind of heavy on starting pitchers. Of course, Jack Flaherty and Trevor Rogers were my starters that I kept. And then I drafted Aaron Nola. He was my first pick. So basically a 6th round pick, 3rd overall in the 6th. Luis Garcia of the Astros, Luis Castillo of the Reds. And then my relievers, Aroldis Chapman and Matt Barnes. And then set up guys Tyler Rogers and Genesis Cabrera to snag some holds. So that's all the fantasy baseball talk. That was probably more time spent than you wanted to hear, but that's my fantasy baseball talk. I am aware that Jack Flaherty, it's actually, but it's a keeper league, Rich. So he is one of the top young pitching talents. So I can also, he'll likely start on the IL, so I can put him in the IL and step in. So let's see. Does not have a prognosis. He will begin on the IL to start the season, but he'll probably be back in May. So let's see. I'm going to go back to the chat here. Bo, keep an eye out for He-Man pack when you see your pack guy. I will, I'll talk to, actually the next show will be, the next time I see him, you will also see him. But I'll shoot him an email because we still have a month between before the show. So I'll shoot him a message. If you're looking for a He-Man pack, he'll be able to hook you up. He's a great guy. I'm making an effort to go to more stadiums this year. I hope to check off Yankee Stadium and Citi Field in the next 2 weeks. Very cool. Fantasy baseball is so difficult to keep up with. It's like a full-time job. It is and it's not. And I say that because it does require, you have to really keep up, but I keep up on baseball. Like it's just, for me, it's natural to follow, and I love minor league stuff, and I follow all that. So it's easy for me to keep up. It comes natural, but I do, for people that aren't as like in depth to baseball, it can be more difficult and challenging to keep up with. With that said, I do only stick to one league. I've had people reach out and they're like, "Hey, I've got a competitive fantasy baseball league. Do you want to join?" I'm like, "No, I can only stick to one," because then it becomes really challenging to try to juggle 2 different teams, especially if they're in money leagues and they're competitive. Then yes, it's way too difficult, at least for me, to keep up with. I know several people that they're into many different leagues, and for me, that's just not the case. If they're casual leagues, like just for fun, I'm still competitive, but at least you're not like this. this league I'm in is ultra competitive. Like we have a text string, we have our own Discord, and we're like chatting every day year round. Like even in the off season, we're chatting about baseball. So I do understand that yes, it can be like a full-time job, and that's why I only stick to this one league. WWE match last night with Bianca versus Becky Lynch. Rewatched that one. I heard a lot of good things, and I think at that point I was watching basketball. I was flipping back and forth between WrestleMania and the basketball games. I think I missed that match, but I heard rave reviews on that match, so I will have to go back. Rich says, speaking of prospects, did anyone see the Angels cut Justin Upton yesterday? That will probably give Joe Adele a full-time job. Yes. And the Angels have a lot of young talent. So their outfield, they have Adele, Brandon Marsh, and there's one other young outfielder with the Angels. OG hit the thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, definitely hit the thumbs up if you can. OG says, did y'all see my Mariners Julio inside the park home run? It's going to be a fun MLB season. If you start a player at a field position and they're in the DH, do you still get those points? Yes. So if Giancarlo Stanton has eligibility in both right field and DH. We don't have a DH in my league. We have 2 utility spots. So it doesn't matter. And I was going to go into Ohtani, and then I saw your follow-up. So yes, as long as you have them in your lineup, it doesn't matter what position they play. And I think this is just standard for all leagues where, Jake Cronenworth has like every infield position eligibility. It doesn't matter what spot you like. If I start him at second base and he's starting today's game at third base, you still get the points. So following that up, Ohtani's a little more challenging because each format is different. So when we had Ohtani, I actually drafted Ohtani first overall because he went in the free agent pool when he signed, and I had the first overall pick that year. So how we handled it in our league was you could start Ohtani at any position at DH, and in our league it was utility or starting pitcher, but you could only start him as a pitcher or a hitter. So if you started him in the utility spot, and he was, DH and starting pitcher, you did not get the pitching points for Ohtani. And if you started him at starting pitcher, you would get his pitching numbers, but not his hitting numbers. And I know other leagues did it by week, where you had to slot Ohtani in at pitcher for the entire week. So if it was a 2-start week, you would get him for his 2 pitching starts. But if you started him for the entire week in the utility spot, DH spot, you would get say he played all 6 games that week, you would get all of his hitting stats, but none of his pitching stats. And some leagues had him split up in 2 people. So there was a Shohei Ohtani batter and there was a Shohei Ohtani pitcher. So some people would have, some leagues you would have 2 different teams owning Ohtani. One as a pitcher, one as a hitter. So every league is seemingly different. There's several ways to play it. Our league, it's every day you can set him. If he's starting, today's game, you slot him in. Likely you're going to slot him in as a starting pitcher, and then tomorrow he may just be a DH, and you can slot him in as a utility in our league. So that's how we handle it. But yes, it can be interesting on how it's done differently in various leagues. Was Brennan Davis in Step Brothers? I think that was one of the names of one of the characters, Brennan. Let's see. All sounds confusing. I'm with Herman. I need a flow chart. It is, but it's just like with anything. Once you get the hang of it, it's old hat. It's easy. OG's asking Rich if he wants WrestleMania tickets. Mark Wilkins, what's up? Good morning to you. Rich says, I can't really get much done at work right now, so Bo is my work for the morning. I like it. John says, Rich needs to take a day off. OG, Rich, I can send you tickets for WrestleMania. Let's see. Does anybody see an LA World Series, Angels and Dodgers? I definitely can see the Dodgers in the World Series. Angels, I don't know. Angels seem to be underperforming, but they have the talent. The Angels have the talent. They have just, greatly underperformed in recent years. But I can definitely, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It definitely could happen. I'd rather see an all Chicago World Series, but I know that's definitely not going to happen because of my team not pulling their weight. I think the White Sox have a chance at making a run in the playoffs, making any type of playoff run. Um, I would hate to what personally, I would hate an Angels Dodger. I would love it for the Angels because, I know John Maley, the hitting coach. They're a fun team with their talent. Um, but I would hate to see the Dodgers in the World Series. I just the Dodgers have become the Yankees to me. Like everybody hates the Yankees. That's the Dodgers to me. It's just like, ugh. But the thing is, it's good for baseball having the Yankees and Dodgers good because they're the biggest TV markets and all that. But um, I hate it when there's a run on Dodgers winning. Um, but if they're bad, it's like, man, I wish kind of like in basketball when the Lakers and Celtics sucked. It's like, man, I wish they sucked for so long. It's like I wish the Lakers and Celtics were good again. And then, the Lakers get LeBron and Anthony Davis and all that talent. It's like, it was kind of nice when they sucked. So let's see. That 70s card show says I'll watch an LA World Series if Leslie Nielsen is the home plate umpire. Um, so there you go. I think that's all I had to talk about today. Um, hit on the Final Four. We hit on the bracket challenge. Hit on Wrestlemania. I bored you with my fantasy baseball. Only if he also sings the national anthem. So today, more shipping. Oh, by the way, I found a when I was going through one of my commons boxes that I was basically just stuffing cards into boxes to move for like a fraction of a penny. I went through and I found a Fleer Ultra Retro Scoring Kings Calbert Cheney, and I'm like, um, yeah, I knew Scoring Kings from like the '90s were valuable, so I looked it up, and one recently sold for like 50 or 60 bucks, and it was in my like just random worthless card box. So put that on eBay. I had two watchers like immediately, which is crazy. I love those finds where it's like I'm gonna check this just because it might be worth something, and it happens to be worth something. So that was fun. Um, so doing some shipping, finish up my reorganizing. WrestleMania night 2 tonight. Um, you have to wear a singlet. I like it. Jenny's back. Had to take a break and figured wrestling was a good time. There you go. Well, you missed the whole show. Jenny, you missed the whole show. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great Sunday. Back on tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central, and enjoy your day.